Okay, brilliant. Let's give folks maybe a few more seconds, and then we can kick things off. All right, I think we can start. Hi, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone, joining from different parts of the world. Um, Thanks for joining us today, and I welcome you all to this session. I'm Dunit Danushka, and I'm the founder of Colombo Data and AI Meetup. Um, so, this is our second session of the meetup. Um, also, for those who are new here, uh, let me give you a brief introduction to who we are and what we do. So basically, Colombo Data and AI Meetup is a small community, small as in we are small as of now, but we are growing fast. And this community is centered around Colombo, city of Colombo, that is the capital city of Sri Lanka. Uh, our objective is to build a knowledge sharing, caring community to discuss the technological advancements happens in different areas in the data space. So this includes data engineering, building data pipelines, data analytics. This includes big data analytics, and then business intelligence, and there are many more. And then we also look into machine learning sides of the things. So this is where we discuss classical machine learning stuff like you design, train, and build models. And also we talk about the bleeding edge of artificial intelligence. So that is one of these sessions we do. Uh, so basically, large language models working with generative AI and many more. Um, so our cadence is we host an event once a month, and this event usually runs up to an hour. And within a session, we have usually two uh, two parts. The first half runs up to 30 minutes, and usually this is where we talk about something new happens in the space, so something trendy happening in the space, or maybe we also use this slot to educate something that the audience may already know. So it could be some educational stuff. The latter half, second half, talks about something practical that uh, how these data engineering analytical concepts we see in the space can be applied at real world scenarios, real world use cases. So, but today we have entire 1 hour dedicated to our guest speaker, Kamesh Sampath. Um, so let me introduce, without a further ado, our speaker today. This is Kamesh Sampath, who's a lead developer advocate from Snowflake, and Kamesh is joining from Bangalore, India. So Kamesh is a friend of mine, and we have worked together, and I think we attended the same conferences together some time back. And I know uh, Kamesh has some uh, legacy as a developer advocate, and he used to work at Google before, and then he started with data integration, and then ventured into data analytics, and he's now doing many awesome things at Snowflake. Kamesh, welcome to the session, and thanks for your time today.
Thanks, David, and pleased to meet you all. I think again, Sri Lanka is like I was just telling Dunit that I was there last Christmas, so around Christmas time. So I was just having my first trip to Sri Lanka, found it beautiful. Went all over down south, Tilgal, and all these stuff. I think so.
Nice.
I think that's something, and I'm pretty happy to be part of this. And thank you, Dunit, for giving me an opportunity to talk to this group. And just to keep things going for this session, like we keep it open-ended. So we have a topic though, but definitely I want to keep it open-ended. Like stop me if we have questions, because it's going to be. I'm going to use slides, but the slides are just for information purpose. So it's going to
Right.
be more demos. I can share those repositories as well, so that you can try these demos by yourself. And probably like I might just for as a request, I might turn my camera off because I'm going to see my monitor right here,
Sure.
so it doesn't look nice. So because there was some glitch with my existing camera, it's not picking me up from straight. So excuse me about that. So as I said, so I keep adding those links, references, documents, and everything on the chat. In case if I miss anything, you can just let Dunit know. Probably share with Dunit as well. Like if any new links or something that you might require, which could help. And I also put my. You can also find me on LinkedIn. I'm just going to put my LinkedIn profile on the chat in case if you want to get connected, like please do so. And you can also ask any specific questions there. I'm happy to answer and be part of this whole thing going forward. Yeah.
Right, good to go, Kamesh. The interesting thing is, your name, Kamesh Sampath. It sounds more familiar to Sri Lankan names. We
Oh,
have
okay.
Sampath as a local name, and yeah, I'm glad that you had a good time, wonderful time at Sri Lanka. And
Uh,
I think, yeah,
So it's technically it's not my surname. It's just an expanded initials for me because uh, traditionally in my family we did not have any specific surname added to it. So, but still I have to fill up my last name everywhere. So
I see.
I just use my expanded initials as my last name. So so you can I can call me Kamesh. That's much better. Yeah. So
Right, sounds
great,
good. All right,
awesome.
over to you, Kamesh. So I'll get myself muted, then I'll moderate the chat. And if there's anything, I'll ping you and ask you. Yeah, you.
Lovely. I
All
think,
right.
yeah, I think let's get started. I'll share my screen and I hope everyone is able to see my screen right now while we're
Yes.
going to start about this. So the topic that myself and Dhoni discussed today, okay, just to give you an overview of what we do at Snowflake with respect to Gen AI, LLMs, and all other stuff, just to make comfortable with you, which you can try. I'll also share you the trial link for Snowflake. Obviously, people would have already known about that, but I can do a sharing of that link. So you can just have a no credit card required, free $400 credit for 30 days, which you can use to try all the features that I'm going to give. I'll just paste the link at the end of this demo, which you can then use for doing all the stuff. So so what you're going to at least do today is like, so again, I'm just going to skip this. I had the enough things. So any questions? So I highly encourage that we get onto this community forums. We have a dedicated community forum. And if people are interested in Colombo and there is a good traction about it, I'm happy to start one Snowflake user group or forum or chapter, whatever we call us in Colombo itself, so that like we can do somebody can lead it and start doing Snowflake specific sessions in Colombo, right? I'm happy to do that as well along with these, and then obviously we can partner and do many more meetups where we can share this stuff. So, but this why I'm saying these questions here is because so apart from me, there will be a bunch of other experts, other community persons, other people like who will be hopping onto these forums. They'll be able to answer their questions so that like you get quick answers, right? So you don't need to technically wait for me to come back and answer all your questions. All right, great. So let's get into the core stuff, right? So I want to introduce what is in Snowflake. We call for the whole suite of Gen AI, ML, and everything. So we just call them as Snowflake Cortex. Snowflake Cortex is the kind of, I can say, the brand name or a product name that we categorize all AI and LL and ML and every stuff inside. So for this today's session, we are just going to concentrate only on generative AI, so which is called as Cortex AI in short. But one thing I want to call about why we talk so much about it, right? Though I think you'll be wondering, okay, what's the specialty and why we want to talk about it? What Snowflake does special, right? So I'll cover each of those things down, but on a top, it's all we do is like we make things easy, efficient, and trusted. I'm going to cover each of these blocks in the upcoming slides. But the idea is like, so whether you are a developer who's zero with generative AI, zero with LLM, zero with anything, but you want to do some LLM POCs or LLM something for your organization to understand whether LLM fits your organization, then that's where the platform comes super handy. There is a no code studio, and also there is no low code solutions which you can basically use depending upon the expertise level that you actually have on any of these technologies, not necessarily a Snowflake platform, but generally on LLMs or other stuff that you want. And the other one we want to talk about is how do we make these things efficient? Is because traditionally, when you want to do anything with Gen AI, right, or LLMs, so what you basically need to do, for example, let's take a Llama, Olama as an example, right? So when you want to run Olama, I have to download those large language models from Hugging Face, then start Olama, then load it, and make sure that my computer has all the GPU, CPU requirements, everything ready, and then run the model. So which is, in a way, it's a little tough when you get it in enterprise because there's a lot of other things that you have to manage, unless and until you have a typical IT shop, you want to do this. And more than that, you have to do it in the correct way, right? Because like there's a lot of things, because generally when you say GPUs, when you say CPUs, when you say LLMs, there is a cost associated with it. Obviously, there is a compute which runs behind the scene. This compute is going to consume the cost, and how efficiently you use the consume. There's no trade-off between inference. There's no trade-off between the speed. There's no trade-off between the infrastructure. There should be a nice, what I call a midpoint between all these three things, which you need to do so that my application becomes efficient, right? And I use optimal cost of an organization so that I can keep improving on it. So this is on the easy side. I'll talk more about these things again. And very, very important on all top of what we do is like we make things, everything trusted. So one of the things still in the AI world, people I know, like people are a little reluctant because they are wondering, okay, what data gets shared to the public? What data gets shared to common people? So is my P2 information is going to go there? Is there anything else, right? And especially if you want to cater enterprise data, then this becomes even more confidential, right? If you're a financial institution, then there comes all these compliances, right? So what we basically do at Snowflake is that we make everything trusted. So that's what you see the blocks on the left side of this whole slide is that everything within Snowflake is governed by what we call a Snowflake Horizon, which is a suite of, or can say, one or more products put together for security and compliance and governance and everything. Even your LLMs is going to pass through this layer before it gets an inference and output, which means that, let's say I have a role access policy or a P2 sensitive information masking or some other policy that you put on your tables and you do a LLM query on the table, then it's going to pass through the same thing and going to give you the answer saying, okay, I cannot show this or mask this or do something else, right? Which means that your data is completely protected, right? And more than all, what we also do is like this data, whatever we interact using LLMs, is not shared with anybody, not with the provider. So we don't provide all the models. I'll show you the list of models that we provide right now. And these are not going to be shared with anyone. And even Snowflake doesn't use this data to train the models as well. So which means that your data is kind of secure with itself, right? So that's the reason why we say it's more model and governance. It's on right below on the overall stack, right? If you see the generative AI, Snowflake ML, and the tools that we use for these, everything sits on top. So this is a very basic, or I should say the good overview thing that we give about Snowflake Cortex and Snowflake is that it's easy, efficient, and trusted always, right? You don't need to worry about whether I lose the data, whether my provider will get the data, or etc., right? Let's talk more about it as we go on when I show more demos, right? Great. So this is what we talked about. So I'm just going to skip this. So how are we making things easy? Right? This is a very important thing that I want to share again. So the very first thing that we do is that models, right? So we have task-specific models, we have foundation models, we have fine-tuned models. So let me explain what these three are, right? Task-specific models. So when I say task-specific model, for example, I want to do a complete. I want to do a translate. I want to do a summary. So these are all common LLM functions that we always do with a thing. So what we basically do at Snowflake is that we already provide you with out-of-the-box SQL functions, which basically are Python APIs, which allows you to interact with the Cortex system, I mean the APIs, to kind of do these task-specific stuff. And you'll understand when I actually show the demo. So the idea here is that it's a low-code solution, which we call as, because you don't need to write the exact boilerplate code that you need to write every time that I'm going to do this one, right? So it's already available for you. You can just start using them and you can start doing them. The next one is on the same lines, you also have embedding models. So the embedding model is basically what it does is like it kinds of going to, like for example, I'm using Grag, I want to convert into a chunks or a vector or whatever it is. So we provide various embedding models that allows you to do those chunking, add, rag, or other advanced LLM concepts, converting chunk of text into what you call vectors, right? So that's what it does with respect to task-specific and embedding model, which is available out of the box. And foundation models, we provide the list of foundation models, the brands you see on my screen, like Snowflake, AI, 21 Labs, NVIDIA, Meta, Mistral AI, Reka, and everything, right? You're going to see all these models. And recently we add Anthropic as well to this, so which means that you can use all these models out of the box. So you'll want to be, oh, what's it? I can use it anywhere else, right? But the whole fun is these models are already loaded for you. So you don't need to actually load it. All you have to do is like on my SQL function, just flip the model that you want to use and execute it. Snowflake takes care of doing this all other tasks behind the scenes for you, including loading the model, running the query against the model, etc., etc. Right? So you don't need to worry about. In a way, I call this serverless because you don't need to worry about what I'm doing behind the scenes. All I have to do is like just send me the prompt, I'll give the answer. Okay. So that's another stuff that you talk. And fine-tuned models is again probably I could categorize this as a little advanced use case. What we basically do here is that, for example, like in an AI world, in Gen AI world, right, the charges of using the APIs is always against the number of tokens that is sent for this particular model, right? So which means that the more number of the tokens you're going to send, the more is going to be your cost. So when you're going to use a larger model, it's always efficient in doing some specific task, right? But at the same time, it also has a cost. So for example, let's say you'll see an example about customer support tickets that he'll have, say, how do you handle customer support tickets? That's an example I'm going to show you with this whole demo of this one. So when I'm going to do this one, for example, I want to categorize a specific customer support tickets. Large models can technically do this stuff, right? But when I want to take a specific task and I want to make sure that my cost is optimized, I want this large language model or whatever it is to do just this little task, nothing generic, right? On one task, then what you can do is like you can use fine-tuned models where I can basically take the outputs from the large response model and give it to a smaller model and make it trained so that I can start querying these models very easily, right? So that like this model does one specific task that is required for you too. So this again, as I said, this is an advanced use case. Probably it has its own session. Probably we'll try to find some time like where I can run through this whole fine-tuning stuff. Awesome. So we got models ready, right? Then comes the actual usage of these ones, right? So there are also cases where I also want to integrate my existing applications or my new applications with Cortex AI. So how do I do this? So we have an API, just classifying this under chat. We have REST APIs for Cortex Analyst and Search, which I can actually expose and make it used by your application that wants to use Cortex AI. So that's the other one we already have. So all these things can be exposed. There are APIs. I'll show you how to use Cortex Analyst and Cortex Search as part of the demo. But they are all APIs. I can create these applications, create this service, and make it available to be consumed by external people. Obviously, you can monetize on top of this, right? And that's a studio on top of it. Let's say I'm a kind of a guy who doesn't know anything to code, but I want to create a fine-tuned model. I want to create a machine learning model. So how do I actually do this stuff? I do this stuff using Studio, whereas it's all just clicks, right? Clicks, 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 and then I start doing this stuff, all right? So that's how we do for Studio as well. This platform is so stable that we got a couple of other stuff done already. So we have Snowflake Copilot, we have Document AI, which is two different, what do you call the apps that is built on top of this whole platform. And I'll talk more about LLM models in a second, right? So this is where the efficiency comes. Snowflake Arctic is a completely open source, fully open source model that is available for you from Hugging Face. If you want to use Snowflake Arctic family of models, go find them out in Hugging Face. You can find these models. And I classify three different things which we call as LLMs, embedding, and tilt. I'll talk about these things in a second, right? The LLM model, Snowflake Arctic LLM model is a completely instruct model. And it gives you the best of the performance as you see on the chart. Again, there's a neutral performance that was done, not specific to Snowflake. And that's where I said earlier, how we make things efficient is optimal use of experts, right? Experts are something which does a specific task on your whole LLM thing. What we basically do when you use experts, which the compute cost increases. And you decrease your compute, your experts might not give you the actual inference. So what you have to do is that there's a kind of a trial and error or tuning that we basically need to do so that the compute is not too high. At the same time, inference is not dead at all. So that's what we do as part of the Arctic LLM model. And again, iterating, this is an instruct model, which means that it cannot generate diagrams, it cannot generate flowcharts, it cannot generate other stuff like what the other ChatGPT Claude models does. The idea here is that Snowflake Arctic is perfectly suited for your handling enterprise data. Okay. The next
Kamesh,
one,
sorry,
yeah.
sorry for the interruption, Kamesh. So one question about the availability of different models with different parameters. Since you mentioned about Snowflake provides these different models like Mixtral,
Mm.
Anthropic, and these kind of things. As a developer, AI developer, will I have access to? Will I have some choice to choose models with different parameters? For example, I if I have a simple use case like embedding generation, maybe I could go with a 3 billion parameter model. If I need to have some kind of image understanding or generate the caption, I might
Mm.
choose a bigger one, something like 7 billion parameter model. Will Snowflake platform will give me that choice because I want to optimize my cost based on the use case.
Okay. There's two things which we offer on the outset. One is the all these things right now. What the demonstration I'm going to show you is all like I cannot change many of the things except I can just change the models that I want to use.
Right.
Right. For
Right.
example, I can flip Snowflake Arctic with Mixtral, or Snowflake Arctic with Llama, and all these things for a bunch of functions I do. And in cases for the cases which you're talking, like there's another case which can infer from your question is that I want to do something starts from scratch, right? Training something very specifically and do these
Right.
things.
Right.
So for that, we definitely provide you the required infrastructure. We call what is called a Snowpark container services. So where I can basically run this whole model, we provide you the GPU, CPU infrastructure for you, where you can start training your model with that, so that you can start using it and use for the inference. So that's the what I call the most advanced use case that you can imagine of. So
Sounds good.
what I'm probably talking for this whole session this time is like it's all okay. I want to get started using some use case in my organization to feel of AI, Gen AI, and what Snowflake can help me with doing it, how easily it can allow you to do. But to answer the question in two ways, yes, you can always load your models, whichever you want, but that's again, you have to train, do everything by yourself. Snowflake gives you the managed infrastructure for you to do the stuff. The other easy out of the box way is that I can just go all the functions as we'll be showing in my demos is all you can just flip the models you want. And there is also an optional parameter that I can also take, which is an array in a SQL world, where I can pass these JSON objects of all the filters and parameters that I want to send to the model. Even that can be done. So again, I could say yes and no to this question for this one. Like some things we cannot change, few things we can change.
Thanks, Kamesh. That makes it clear. Yeah.
Okay. So we talked about embedding again. If you see this embedding, what we did is massive text embedding benchmark, is open source benchmark which we combined, which can we have 364, 768, 1024. I think if I remember correctly, we also got 2048 floating point array for these vector generations. The very specific thing I want to highlight here is that the moment I use RAG, the moment I inject context into my application, the one big thing the advantage that Snowflake brings as a platform is that you don't need to go for another external system, another external vector DB to kind of go store my vectors, because Snowflake itself is a natural database thing. So where you can just add a column to any of your tables, we have provide vector type columns and store these vectors inside the table itself, so that your data doesn't leave the Snowflake security perimeter. Okay, so that's with Arctic Embed. And Arctic Tilk is an amazing document AI thing which we did recently. I think where you also see this, we can extract the performance of this document AI stuff with 0.8 billion parameters that was used to train this model. You can find more information about this efficiency. It's day by day. I'm seeing this efficiency is increasing. And we can also, I'll also show you a document AI where it extracts amazingly beautiful extractions out of these documents, like in a fraction of a second. We can upload up to 50 MB of document max for each document for it to be processed. And again, document AI is one of the classic examples of, I could say, a zero code UI kind of thing. I'll show you how it works when in Snowflake, but when you see an example, it's all just clicks that you have to do to make document AI work for you. All right, great. The last piece I talked about efficiency. I talked about easiness, efficiency. Right now, I'm talking about how do we do trusting, right? So we have data protection. That's what I told earlier. Your data never leaves Snowflake perimeter, which means it's completely governed by the governance rules that you actually define, the access policies, the P2 confidentiality, etc., etc. Again, it also goes one more level up. I can also do role-based access controls, which means that I can control the whole data that's getting generated, right? Granular controls over data, fine-tune LLMs, ML models. Even when you generate it, we have a model registry and also use of AI features, which means that your policy, the user who is accessing it, what control he has on top of this, everything goes there. So that's the reason. If you remember the slide where I started with, The lowest layer is Snowflake Horizon, and everything has to pass through Horizon, where all these protection, role-based access controls, everything lies on. Lastly, about content safety as well, we added Cortex guardrails, which we had, which means that it cannot produce harmful content when something asked about this, right? We also make sure that it doesn't hallucinate as well. So these are very important stuff when you kind of start using LLMs, because these are something which enterprise companies or enterprise organizations basically look for. Okay. Awesome. So we are going to cover the Gen UI use cases that I can solve. These are few of the use cases, not the entire bunch, I could say. But what I'm going to show you is like on all these use cases, I'm not going to talk about them. I'm just going to show you demos, how these things work to make things easy and simple and understandable. All these demos are also available for you outside thing. I will share those GitHub repositories as well, where you can find this source code. The quick starts helps you to do this by yourself when I share you the actual trial link as well. So, so this chart, like next few slides, what I'm going to basically do is like I'm going to take out all the features that we saw so far within the Snowflake's Cortex ecosystem and tell you like how do we do automated BI and how do we do conversational assistance? How do we build them in fraction of seconds, I should say? How do you do text processing and summarization? What are the out-of-the-box LLM functions that I can use, both Python and SQL? And how do I use fine tuning? But I'll keep fine tuning as last. If we have time, we'll cover fine tuning, but that's also another use case which you can think about. For all these things, I'm going to take the use case that I'm going to use for all these things is customer support tickets. That I have a customer support ticket. What I have to do is like I have to go find out, use LLMs to find various tasks. For example, categorization of customer support tickets and say which customer needs what tickets. Like how do I answer them? Like what are the queries that I can do? How my business people can talk to it, right? The very first thing that we're going to do here is that I'm going to use Cortex Analyst, which is a REST API, which is GA just a couple of days back, which means that you can also use outside as well. So you can use Cortex Analyst API and kind of go do this stuff and talk about it. There's also another one called as Copilot. Copilot is basically for developers. For example, I'm sitting inside Snowflake's UI, which we call them as Snowside, and I have a database and a schema context setup. I want to kind of build queries, right? Like how do you do Copilot with GitHub or something like that? I want to generate SQL queries. So which can be done using Copilot. It's more internal, more for developers, whereas Cortex Analyst is something which is outside your domain, which means that your applications can integrate with Snowflake data or Snowflake platform end of the day, right? So this one I want to just highlight is the accuracy of text to SQL conversion. We stand at approximately 92% because we use agentic system already. Just for FYI, we are also had a recently announced Snowflake Intelligence, which is a framework for you to build agents. It's private preview, probably it's not available to public yet. So we should be doing a public preview or something, and I'll keep posted when that comes up, which means that you can use Snowflake platform to even build agents and do agentic workflows for your own use cases as well. Okay. And this one, Snowflake Cortex Analyst, is basically gives you this 92% accuracy. Where you'll be wondering where I'm using the agentic system behind the scenes. Since we have multiple models, so what we basically do whenever a text has to be converted into a SQL query, we generate the SQL query using multiple models and try to compare their outputs and get you the best of the one which is closest to this one. I'll talk about how actually Snowflake does this because we have a specified search mechanism and semantic search plus a keyword search, which we call as hybrid search, which is basically used behind the scenes. But that's again a little deeper information. Probably just even do a little bit more than that, what I discussed right now. Right? So I talked about two products which we saw about for this automation of business intelligence, right? One is Snowflake Cortex Analyst, another one is Snowflake Cortex. But this is just a comparison, like when you want to use what, right? As I said earlier, Analyst is for more for building an application for my business users, uses REST API, and can give direct answers to your question. Direct answers to your question. And again, I use semantic models on top of my actual data to basically for Cortex Analyst to work. And the accuracy rate end of the day is super, super high. I'll tell you how it's, when I show you a demo, you'll understand. And Snowflake Copilot is more for developers like us who want to sit down your hands and you write code every day. I want to generate SQL code. I want to make it like for data analysts and SQL developers. It works from within the Snowflake platform. There's no APIs outside. It can generate SQL queries and write SQL queries you can take, modify, right? It's two different use cases, but solves the same purpose, right? It's more of a natural English text to SQL conversion, right? And recently, What we also did is like with Gen AI on Snowflake, we just enable a new feature where it can also automatically generate descriptions for your tables, table columns, etc., etc. So which makes your life even more easier when you want to generate some what you call some kind of an objects which adheres to your organizational uh, programmatic what you call I say like programmatic. I'm just listing the word right now. So for you to do those standards that you want to do, sorry about that. So standards that you want to have in your organization. All right, great. So I talked a little. I'll just me go and show you the demo. So this is a place where you see. I think let me know if this font is okay for everybody to view, or I can make it a little bigger. Um,
If you, Kamesh, if you can make it a little bit. Oh, yeah, that's good. That's all.
This is okay, right?
Yeah.
Okay, fine. So let me start this session. So this is what I talked about. I'm not going to get into zero to Snowflake session. But obviously, that's a different topic we could keep for another day. So if you want to sign up, you can just go to app.snowflake.com. I'm going to put that thing on the chat where you can do sign up stuff. And we have a bunch of, if you go to Coursera, we have a bunch of Coursera use cases, I mean, courses as well to understand basics about Snowflake, what Snowflake does, etc., etc. I don't have the link handy right now, but I can share it with Dunit so that you can post on the Meetup page. So where you can go do the courses and get yourself a certificate as well. All right. And if you people are still interested, Dunit, just for FYI, we can also have one of these sessions where you can also do a badging lab, where you could get a badge from Treadly or something like that, which is from Snowflake, right? For example, on AI, Cortex analysts, which you're going to talk about, or LLMs, right? So we have a bunch of other thing. I'll share that thing if people are interested. We can do a lab hands-on session some other time where you can basically do about this. Okay.
That would be
So
perfect, Kamesh. So we'll have a discussion on that, and probably from next month, we can start facilitating
okay, I
those.
can do that.
Yeah.
I think that works perfectly for me. So I'll share you all those stuff, right?
Yeah.
And this
Kamesh,
is what.
one more thing, one more request. Uh, Perhaps for those who are new to Snowflake and those who are still students or someone who's not that familiar with the data space, if you could give us a little bit introduction to what Snowflake is and what are the key problems it's trying to solve in the data space, that would be
Okay,
helpful. Yeah,
you want
and
to do
then
it
you
now
can.
or later?
Uh, Probably right now. Maybe you can take a. Um,
Yeah, I think definitely. I think see I'll make the process little very thing right. It was started. Snowflake was started. Probably people think that it's a cloud data cloud thing, right? Which is actually
right.
started with our founders are basically from Oracle. They were guys of like who moved from Oracle and started his own org like where said, hey, I'm going to move all my data warehouse into cloud. So we support three major cloud providers: AWS, Azure, and GCP. And I think you don't need, you cannot bring your own cloud. You choose the platform when you sign up. For example, I'll tell you when you do a app.snowflake.sign. So when you go here, I'm sorry, it doesn't go for me because I have to log out. So when you go there, when you do a sign up, so it basically allows you to choose which cloud provider you want. Ideally, the cloud provider is transparent for you. You can choose AWS, Azure, or GCP, but you cannot control, okay, I want to define my own VPC networks. I want to define my own other stuff. But the idea here is that what I'm trying to solve, what Snowflake tried to solve was data silos, kind of deleting all the data silos that is across your organization. For example, let's assume that I'm an admin user. I build an application. I have my own data set. I have my own analytics built, everything, right? Let's say there's another organization that comes and say it's an HR organization. It wants to share some data that you actually do. So now it becomes a problem because now I have to go and replicate the same data within that organization's database and everything, right? And including analytics and everything. So they started to create a lot of silos, right? People have their own data within themselves. It is not shared. It is not useful because you're also increasing the cost, etc., etc. So with Snowflake, all these data silos are taken off. If you want to share a data from one place to another place, we call what is called as a marketplace, where you can publish your data and you can share the data across with the permissions, access controls, and everything that I defined earlier. So that is one thing. So the screen that you see right now, whenever I refer something called a Snowsite is the web console that Snowflake uses for you to do all the stuff, right? So we want to create a worksheet, create databases, create stored procedures, create UDFs, UDTFs, you name it, right? And everything. So obviously, the whole to keep things simple. Now, also what we also thought, okay, apart from doing a success that we found about making deleting the data silos, making things on cloud, and we also optimize how the ETL pipelines, your data pipelines works. The things are going on improving a lot. People like this. So also what we did recently, we also added the AI capabilities to our own platform, which means that I can do everything LLMs and other stuff. We thought, okay, we will manage all the LLMs and give the users only to use the stuff. Okay, and I think this is a very super quick intro about what Snowflake does. But
That explained it a lot, Kamesh, and thanks for that comprehensive introduction. I think that covered everything about. I don't think I can't think of anything better than that. So I'll let you carry on with the rest of the demo.
sure. So,
Thank you.
so when you go to Snow site, I think the quick starts has some intro sessions as well, Dunit, where people can do hands-on. I'll try to see like if I can get any kind of an extended trial link. I'll talk to my
Right.
team inside
Yeah.
and see if we can share that with the meetup group so that like for something like which can come for more number of days so that you have enough time to go about try those quick starts.
Yep.
I will try to talk to the team internally and I'll let you know. If I'm able to get it, I'll share that with you so that you can share with the group, right? So that they can create that account and do it. And then you can create any number of accounts, no credit card required. It just gives you credits that goes for a month. Okay. That's how it works. So whenever I talk about Snow site is nothing but what you see here. So even in the documentation or anywhere you see, okay, go to Snow site, open a worksheet. It's nothing but you can create a worksheet like this. This is what a worksheet is all about, right? So where you, okay, let me go close this one, put a new worksheet here. Okay, you see this worksheet where I can go execute SQL queries basically. I have to choose a warehouse, a role, a warehouse. In warehouse, okay, again, this is a very important thing. Probably I missed to start this in introduction. In Snowflake world, it's technically a virtual warehouse. Virtual warehouse is it's nothing but a compute that you build behind the scene. It's not the actual place where your data is stored, right? Technically, like where my files are stored, where my other stuff are stored, right? It's basically a virtual warehouse in Snowflake world. For example, you see here, I have a virtual warehouse named Kamesh Demos underscore S X small, which is a small compute that I use behind the where your queries basically gets executed. So warehouse in Snowflake world, if you see warehouse anywhere, just imagine that is a compute. We have big sizes of compute that you can use, small, medium, large, and X large, etc., etc., that get technically translated into the actual compute in the cloud provider behind the scene, but that is transparent for you. So all in Snowflake world, you get is like the credits that goes off whenever you use this one. Okay, so that's what. So whenever you see warehouse, whenever you read warehouse in Snowflake world, it's all about those things. And as I said earlier, the biggest advantage of using Snowflake platform is the ability to share something. For example, I can share this with the people, or I can bring in people to kind of use my worksheets and do other stuff, which means that, for example, I'm a company which builds data, right? And I do a lot of research, I do a lot of things and do build the data legally, and I want to share this data for money, right? That's what people do, right? You see a lot of data that is getting shared across. So, and Snowflake gives you that platform via Snowflake Marketplace, where I can basically go publish my data and monetize my data. Again, that's another one, right? Which you want to do. So that's another platform. So it's kind of, I could call like it's kind of a warehouse, and it also is kind of like AI cloud, and you could, it's also a marketplace. So there's a lot of different perceptions that you can see for a Snowflake platform. But again, it depends upon the use case where you want to use, but it covers all those things, right? So whenever you see worksheets, there are notebooks. I'll talk about notebooks. You'll see some examples on notebooks. Snowflake notebooks is, again, you can think of it of an extended Jupyter notebook, but with the ability to kind of execute SQLs within a Snowflake. I mean, within that notebook. That's the ability. So Snowflake notebooks works on Snowflake platform only. It doesn't work outside. So where I can both execute SQL as well as Python and all this code, including Streamlit. I'll show you an example when we actually do this, right? And marketplaces, I can do private sharing. I can have provided studio. I can connect my partners. You can do all these stuff. Okay. Again, I'm gave you a little introduction, a little bit more. And studio, this is where I talked about. I can do everything. For example, I can create an anomaly detection. Just click of buttons. No code required. You don't even write even a single piece of code to do anomaly detection, to do forecasting, or to do classification or anything. All clicks, follow the clicks, including in some cases, you can also create a search service and give you for this. And also, I also have models where I can go create a fine-tune LLM models as well. So I can just click and then create a custom LLM where I can fine-tune LLM models. Again, no code required from a developer perspective, just clicks and then do. This is what we call as zero code solutions that Snowflake provides you through our AI/ML studio, right? Awesome. So let's get to the analysis. So I'm going to show you what I said earlier. So I have, for example, let me restart this session again. So I have a customer support tickets data. That's what I'm going to talk to you about. So there's a bunch of customers who have raised customer support tickets. The task for me is to go find out, talk to this data in a natural language, right? That's one of the things which is the highlight of this whole meetup is about. How do I talk to this data super easily, super the natural English, right? Not in other languages. That's what I'm going to do. Cortex Analyst is something which allows you to do this. Okay. So how do I do this? The Cortex Analyst. So this is a Streamlit app again. So uses something called as a semantic model, right? The semantic model is a layer that sits on top of your actual data, right? And then it sits between your prompt and technically your data and LLM, right? It stands between that, okay? So for example, I have a support tickets, and then I say, okay, this is a support ticket about this, which database it belongs to, which schema and table. So this again, there is a generator which can basically generate this data for you, this old YAML, so which you have to use as part of the Cortex Analyst question. Let's say I define all dimensions. For example, ticket ID is one column on my table. And then I'm saying what are the synonyms that I can use. These are the various words that I can understand it to be a ticket number. Give some description, give some expression, data type, some sample values. So I keep defining things like this, and even a little bit more sophisticated. It's becoming day by day. So where I can also measure, where I can also do all of this stuff. Now, what I can do right now is just, let's say, example, I ask a question to the, sorry, I just have a shortcut. So I want to say, can you show me a breakdown of customer support tickets by service type, cellular, and business internet? So this is a very natural language question that your businessman can, I mean, your business user can ask the people, right? Now, when I give this, what basically happens, Snowflake behind the scenes, it uses Cortex Analyst service. Cortex Analyst basically uses semantic model on the data, and it generates you a query like this. For example, with all the best practices, which include CTEs as well, go select service type, discount as ticket count from support tickets, where service type in cellular and business internet, and then blah, blah, blah. Okay. It generates you the whole query and also gives you the data. It's a JSON data that I kind of formatted and displayed it for you on this app. And again, it also generates you a bar chart as well, right? I can execute the query. Since it's a Streamlit application, Streamlit is super versatile. I can also plot this whole query response into a bar chart, right? So how does it do this? It uses a semantic model. And let me scroll it down. This is probably this is a little bigger semantic model. It goes and calls this analyst API. So once you sign up for your Snowflake account, this API becomes available for you. You can query on your data. I'm giving this semantic model, which is right now uploaded into my stage, right? The stage of my thing, right? And then the messages, this is a prompt that you basically send. Whatever I send the question here, it uses role, content, and type, right? The prompt is actually interpolated here. And Streamlit gives you a chat interface, which means that I can do conversation analytics using the chat interface. You don't need to write anything very special. Snowflake, as I said earlier, Streamlit is super versatile in building these chat kind of applications so fast, so quickly, and so easily. Okay. So the next question I can also ask, another question is like, let's say I'm going to ask it like, this is not every time that I'm going to have this. Now I'm going to say, okay, can you give me how many unique customers have raised these support tickets, cellular service type, with email as a contact reference? Again, this is again a natural language question that I'm asking it. It's going to again generate me a query, same type of query, but this time it's just going to give me a count, right? There is no chance because I cannot visualize anything right now. So I did not visualize it. Again, it gives you the question like the query like this, support tickets, blah, blah, blah. And then where the contact reference is email and service type. The beauty of Cortex Analyst is not about the SQL queries it's generating, a Streamlit's ability to kind of plot them as graph and all these things. It's ability how it understands your model. So there's a big thing that gone behind the scenes from Snowflake, which made it so possible with so much accuracy that the data that is something generated, the queries that get generated is super, super accurate. So when I did this demo earlier, very first time, I have to basically craft this whole semantic model myself. But now we have a semantic generator. I can share you the link at the end of the session, which allows you to basically do this part. Okay. If you go to this quick start, I'll also share you another quick start, which you can use to basically do something with Cortex Analyst. I'll share you the generator links as well. There's a blog link which talks about this. And it is so much versatile you want to. So I also want to show you like how I can integrate this with an external application. I have my own Slack demos. Probably I'll show it another day. This is exactly what you saw right now. But in this case, I kind of integrated Slack with Cortex Analyst. So this is what the demo that I'm showing right now is exactly the same demo. I was using a Streamlit Happier, but in this case, I was able to talk from Slack chat using Slack commands, or it can also be from Teams, or it could also be other places, other tools that you basically use to kind of go and interact with this. For example, I did so many things here, right? For example, I had a Slack command which created a warehouse, which builded my demo database, builded my schema. These are all done using Snowflake DevOps. So we have a DevOps CLI, Snow CLI, which allows you to do this, and a very comprehensive API, Python API, that allows you to talk to Snowflake and then create these DDL commands, right? Which you can do. Created file formats, created stages, loaded the data at the stage. And super thing, what I also did in this one is like I also kind of integrated with alerts and notifications within Snowflake. And I automatically got an alert back to my thing saying, hey, your data got refreshed and so many records got ingested, right? Again, I'm doing all these things using APIs, which means that the power of Snowflake is not just you have to get into Snowsite to do everything. The APIs are so comprehensive that I can talk to Snowflake right from my system using the Python APIs or Java SDKs or Go SDKs, you name it, right? And if you see the same example, what I saw right now, I kind of ran the same query. I gave a command like this. Can you kind of do this? For example, I just call this command like, okay, slash Cortex Analyst. I ask this question like this, and then start doing the stuff, right? It can generate stuff for me and kind of generate this query. And then I plotted this one and generate this start. And the beauty again is that I used LLMs behind the scenes. Okay, that's another power. Okay, I'll tell you another example here. So, and then I deleted that finally, right? Again, this is a classic example to show the integration, how integration works. I can integrate Cortex Analyst with an external systems as well, right? And with alerts and notifications, this is one alert that I did last time when I was doing a demo again. So one of the things is like I was going and analyzing, doing some sentiment analysis and other stuff on a food truck data. Again, Tasty Bites is our classic data that we always use to kind of do demonstrations and then show a power of how Snowflake works. So one of the things what I did was like I wanted to go build a sentiment analysis on top of my truck data, and then I have to use the truck data thing and then kind of come filter of top 3 negative reviews and kind of send it to an alert notification thing, right? The problem that I tried to solve here again using LLMs was that I kind of used LLMs to generate me this whole Slack block that you see here, right? In Slacks, everything is blocked. So if you go there, if you go to the API, Slack APIs, you can go find out there's a block builder, which is a huge JSON that basically gives you all the blocks that gets displayed. For example, the review here, the truck ID here, and then these bullets, these emojis, everything, right? So ideally, in an ideal world, I would have to sit down and write all the stuff, but I did not do that here. I'll tell you how I did this, okay? I'm going to open this. I'm not going to run this one, but I want to show you the power of LLMs again and how easy for you to have a real world use case, right? So let me go show you what I did. Where is that? Let me go scroll down. So this again, this is what is Snowflake Notebook. We'll see a little bit more about this. So I generate an alert here, basically. So whenever my review sentiments is kind of top 3 ones, and whenever I have a record on this, I'm basically using Snowflake Cortex Complete using Llama model, Llama 0405B billion model. And then I'm saying summarize my review tickets. This is a prompt that I'm sending it across. Give it a review alert header, give a truck emoji, stay consistent, blah, blah, blah. What do you want to do? Put reviews, whatever review I selected from my review data and truck ID that I got from my query. There you go. It generates you the whole Slack thing that you see here. And then whenever that notification gets fired to Slack using webhooks, it can also use webhooks. It's going to plot you the data, show you the data the formatted way that you see on my screen. Again, I want to highlight this, like why I said this is because like this is one of the probably very common use cases where you can start to use LLMs, right? And then you need some platform which allows you to hook it up, right? All I did is like just write the SQL query, right? Again, a kind of store proc, that's all, right? And then alerts and notification, the framework is already there. And all you have to find out is the right place where I can plug it in and use it. Okay. So again, we can also have this telemetry and other stuff and other session probably whenever you feel to do. But I was just trying to kind of share you with all these things. Okay. I think we are right at the top of the hour. I just want to go cover a few more stuff. Probably I'll skip these slides. I'll just jump to other ones. So another one is like probably I want to share is like how to use Cortex document assistant. Right? It's again a search which uses RAG. Right? If you remember, you know what is RAG, right? So I think this is how it does inside the day. I just want to show you this slide. Get all the documents, create the chunks, extract the chunks. We have embedding functions given by Snowflake. Extract the chunk and fill it inside. And whenever we do Cortex search, which is a classic search of that we do within Snowflake, it's going to take the chunks out of it. It's also going to take your question, convert it into chunks, do a semantic search or hybrid search for that matter, and get you top K results where it can generate the response for you, right? And this is what I meant when I said hybrid retrieval. I use semantic lookup plus keyword lookup, do all result ordering, and give you the stuff. Okay. So I'll tell you how effective it is, right? So let me go and pull this out, and I want to go and see if I can show you the document, which basically has this one. Snowworks, SWT, which I did earlier. Data. What I'm going to do is I have a question on this document. Okay, this is a one customer a question that one of my customer support guy is going to solve. And I'm going to find out these two information. How do I do cellular service and how do I do international roaming, right? How much shall we charge? So I'm just going to ask another question similarly. I'm just going to ask uh, what kind of a service that Gregory has. It's again the Streamlit app. Again, it's going to go back and use Cortex search. It says cellular service plan. How did you find out? Because I used RAG earlier when I was building this application to kind of load this data using UDFs into Snowflake's own database, right? Which has vector data type. So which means that I converted the document, extracted the text, converted the text into vectors, and stored the vectors inside the database. Now, when I'm using Cortex Search is again an API. So if you see this example here, so I'll be using an API here, Snowflake Context, and then I'm just kind of using a select query here. But I also have a Python API to basically do this one. So this is embedding text with 768 dimension vector, right? I can also use 384, 768, 1024, 248, right? They're all available out of the box. Again, you don't need to write this function. I will write this function. Technically, if you've seen other frameworks, they basically allow you to write these functions. Any question,
Kamesh,
Denny?
sorry for the interruption. I think you just answered my question. So my question was, as a developer, can I select the number of parameters, the model with different number of parameters? I think you
Right.
just showed it. So I
Yeah, so
think
when I think if you go to the documentation, it gives you, I've not detailed out as part of this demo, but there are other parameters that you can basically pass, like a temperature,
right,
your
right.
that's all these things, right, which you usually pass. I've not passed this here, but that all the functions takes an array and an object. So where you can basically pass your JSON data of all the parameters that you want to send it to these models for tuning. Okay.
Right. Brilliant. Thank you.
And this functions again all of the, so what the idea behind this, why I feel that Snowflake as a platform, it's a classic platform AI, is like I solved many of the everyday developer problems, like taking out all the boilerplate code out of your hand and giving it to you as functions with parameters out of the box, so that you can concentrate on building your apps rather than writing the boilerplate code, right? Why do we ever need to write boilerplate code? Again, with AI and Gen AI and everything in place, I can just write or generate code using that and then do the cleanup that I require to do. That's what it makes things easier, right? And again, I'm going to ask another question here just for the clarity's sake. I'm just saying, was he charged a roaming fee? Again, it's going to go back to my document chunks and say, okay, hey, he was charged $85 roaming fee. Oh, we know we did find it, right? So he discharged $85 roaming fee, right? And I can also ask another question. For example, let's ask a very generic question. Which invoice, sorry, invoice gives, again, it's a natural language question that I'm asking, gives these details. It's going to say, okay, I'm going to go this particular document number, this particular invoice number, which gives you this. Okay, this is where you go, right? 9987. So, well, in the real-time use case, if you see your customer service guy, like he sits on a phone, he can use an interface like this, and he can talk to the data, quickly respond, which means that he can handle more customer tickets and more happy customers. Okay. The next one I want to talk, maybe I'll skip the slides. I'll just go to the demo. So I'm just going to talk about the LLM functions that we have. So this is Snowflake Notebook. As I said earlier, within a Snowflake notebook, I can execute SQL, I can execute Python. And the beauty of this is that I can also, I'll tell you, I can refer data from another platform to another cell. So that's another beauty of Snowflake notebooks as well. So let's go and execute this one. So I'll go each one, bunch of functions, cover a bunch of functions to you, and also share you the repository where there is a lot of demo notebooks available, which you can open up and try various features that these notebooks gives you, right? I'm importing pandas and Streamlit here. You already have this question cleared, queried for number of support tickets. Here, the very first function, there are other functions. There is a function of keeping on increasing. This is just probably a month old or something. Classified text. This basically is going to classify a text based on this particular one. For example, I have a text from this support ticket, right? Basically, the complaint or whatever the customer has sent across. So I want to classify this text, saying, okay, classify them between an internet phone, reading this data, this text, classify me whether that's an internet or a phone type of a ticket. Kind of request. Okay. So I'm classically using Snowflake.cortex is the namespace. Classified text is a function. I'm using the column from my support tickets. That's what you see in there. And then I'm going to classify them in one of these classes. There you go. Fire it up. So this is going to classify me whether this particular text is going to be stage start roaming fee, blah, blah, blah. Then obviously this is going to be a phone, right? And then it's kind of say account linked here, blah, blah, blah. And then it's classified as internet. Okay, this is a very crude classification that I did just for the demonstration purpose. But ideally, you can use this classified text to go and classify very specific things where you know how to classify and what classification I have to bring in. But again, working on your data directly. Okay. And you don't need to worry about. So in these cases, I cannot change my model because this internally used Snowflake's already trained once. So I cannot change model here. I can just need to use this one directly as it is, right? This is where complete is a function that where I can change models. Okay. Right now I included Claude as well, so which was just added recently. And then like I had Gemma, Llama models, Snowflake's own Llama, Mistral. Probably I'm sorry about this. This should be AM21 Labs. I accidentally put a Snowflake. It's all just Jamba models and Snowflake Arctic. Okay. So these are the models that's available there. So this is where I want to show you another nice thing. It's again a power of Snowflake notebook, right? I have basically a thing which I'm going to pick up what model I want to do and execute my compute on. Complete on, right? I'm using Streamlit to kind of build this one. Streamlit can run right within your Snowflake notebook. I don't need to go outside, run a server, right? It automatically runs. The moment I put any of these Streamlit widgets within my notebooks, that's going to basically get the widget done here. For example, I use a select box here. I'm going to use Snowflake Arctic model, do a complete, and then I'm kind of doing a concat. You can use any of your SQL functions and everything here to build their own prompt. And then I'm kind of saying support tickets, and then I want to get the bullets here. Bang, there you go. So probably I did not do this one. Okay, I did not execute this. I'm sorry. Then I'm going to use the model here. This is going to do a complete with Snowflake Arctic. And then once I have this data, you see this little ginger kind of a thing here on your SQL, which means that I can go back and select the Python cells references within SQL statements. Again, this again a super power of your Snowflake notebooks that I want to call it out. I can go back and refer those cells right within my Snowflake, SQL statements, like a Jinja templating thing, right? I can just use Jinja templates to kind of do this stuff. Any question to it?
Quick question, Kamesh. Is these Snowflake notebooks still compatible with Jupyter notebooks or Google Colab ones? Or is
This is technically end of the day, this is all IPUNB file. Okay.
Right.
End of the day, that's what gets stored. The only thing is that when you take it outside and run, it cannot do this kind of interpolation. It has to be run within the platform for it to do the interpolation. You can still run your Python cells. It will technically work. The SQL cells will not work outside Snowflake thing.
Brilliant. The other question is, do you have any publicly available collection of these notebooks somewhere available in Snowflake?
Great question. I'm going to get that right away for you.
Nice. Because I see many Snowflake users within Sri Lanka, and then they just wanted to learn Snowflake by trying out these things. So I think
Hutch did that. I think one of the Hutch, top enterprise senior management guy presented in one of our. So I just put these notebooks right there.
Nice.
So keeps on increasing this stuff. I think all you require is Snowflake platform and just input. And again, the another one I want to share you is that all these demos are also available as an API. Dunit, I'll share that link separately for you. You can just do
Sure.
pip install and start use these notebooks using pip commands.
Brilliant.
Okay. So
Yeah.
that is another one which I'll share that with you a bit later. I think I don't have that handy with you. Just came a couple of days ago. It's in my mailbox. I'll take it and share it across to you so that these notebooks can be just created using commands. Import demo notebooks, run pip package, and then it will create. Okay.
Thanks, Kamesh. I think once we are done with the session, we can compile a list of resources as an email, and we can send out an email probably
Absolutely.
mid
Absolutely. I'll
next.
share all the
Yeah.
resources that you
Yes.
require. And the team can share. I mean, the people can share what resources they might need. You can just share it with me. I'll do this stuff.
Brilliant.
Again,
Yeah.
so we did this one. We got the answers here. The next one is basically I'm kind of doing some kind of a formatting and displaying the data here. I'm taking this data using Streamlit to kind of plot this data in a more better way, right? You can even plot graphs. Okay. And the other beautiful function I always love is Snowflake Cortex sentiment, where I can do sentiment analysis right on your text, right? Since I was talking about customer support tickets, what I was trying to do is like I was trying to run a sentiment analysis on the customer request on the table. And one thing I have to mention here is that all the Snowflake Cortex functions returns you a JSON response by default, and each JSON response has a score in this response, right? The score is between 0 to 1. Basically, it tells how much accurate that particular answer is. So, as an application user, when you get the JSON response, you can verify the score and say, okay, this is accurate or not, and use the score that is the future use case. So that's another thing that I want to highlight here. In this case, for sentiment analysis, the score is from -1 to +1. So -1 is totally negative. That's what I used on my sentiment analysis demo that I showed you earlier, where I sent the notification. And 0 is neutral, 1 is positive. So this is what I did. I just took it out, little spice it up, and then made it little 0, -1, +1 instead of decimals. And then I've kind of made this one. And then what I did, I kind of used Streamlit again to kind of go and plot this thing like using emojis, right? I want to say positive, negative, neutral emojis kind of stuff. I just went and plotted my sentiment analysis on top of this. So in this case, I'm kind of using my notebooks for more fun and other purpose as well, so that like it's not very lame, only code kind of thing, but just want to show the versatility of Snowflake notebooks where I can do SQL, I can do Python, cross-reference cells, make it beautiful looking, plot graphs. I think the demo notebooks has graphs where we also plot graphs within this thing. I can just do a plotting of a graph as well, right? And then here, the summarize basically summarizes the whole stuff into those. All these functions are available in Snowflake documentation with all the parameters that is required, but I'm just highlighting few of those functions right now. And obviously, it just summarizes all the stuff. Prompting, I think if you remember, I think you can just do the complete building of these prompts like this, install and everything. And then it basically says, okay, I'm going to do this one, and then I'm going to extract the stuff. And this is the beauty again here is that from the cell, I can use a cell name, convert that into data frames to pandas. So which means that I can have Snowpark thing as well as general pandas that you used for this. If people are not aware of this, you also have Snowpark pandas, which is nothing but an enterprise pandas which you can use, which can allow you to kind of load huge data sets pretty fastly. It's based on open source project called as Modern. If people have heard about Modern, so Modern is one of the open source projects. We brought in distributed computing for pandas within Snowpark pandas. So if you know about, I'll just go here. I'm just going to put this. So this can be used as a drop-in replacement for your pandas, so that you can use distributed pandas uh, for manipulating data sets. So it doesn't say my data set is super huge, then it does distributed computing space across your computes to kind of go do this stuff for you. Okay. So that's what you do. I can just go back and plot this data, extract JSON out of it, say what is this. It is more like prompting and extracting answer. Translate, again, it doesn't have a huge set of languages. It has a bunch of languages that allows you to translate as well. So that allows you to take a text from your thing and then translate that in other different languages that you want to do. Again, this plotting of the same thing. And extract answer, I can take a column and I can ask a natural language question on the column saying how much roaming fee I was charged. and then take the answer out and put it here, right? So that's what I did here as well. And this one is another beautiful stuff I want to share. Okay, so now these are the very basic functions that I covered. You can see the documentation where we have a series of Snowflake functions that you can use for your own stuff, right? For all the stuff that you do with all these LLM functions, except for complete. Complete is the only function that allows you to use a model as a first parameter. All of the functions like extract, answer, translate, and everything is all pre-built. You cannot change the model for those functions, all right? And lastly, I just take 5 more minutes to cover document, AI, if that interests people as well. So what I did here is like I took the same, what I call these invoices, and then I kind of what I did is kind of extracted these invoices using documents. See here, for example, I uploaded all these invoices into my stage, and then on each invoice, what I can also define is called as values, right? I can say I can ask a natural language question. For example, I say what's the customer address, name and address. It kind of gives you go to the document, analyze this document, and extract the data and give you a score, the confidence score, right? And you as a user, when you train your model, you can basically tell whether, okay, this is the right score, it's upper or lower, or point anything else in the document saying, okay, this is the answer that you need to get, and then correct it. And then finally you can say the accuracy score here. Once it's done, it's kind of like a wizard kind of a thing that you basically do. Extract all the information, define them, and attach them to a variable. I'll tell you where this variable is used. And then you can extract all the fields from this document. Okay, I just trained, for example, 2348394310458921. But I'm going to ask a question on this document, which is 9987. Okay, the same thing like what you did earlier. You can ask. So now kind of train only 4 documents, but ideally you can train any number of documents. The more the number of documents you train, the more accurate your results are. Okay, I can go up to 50 MB, as I said earlier, for one document. So once you train your document, the nice thing about document AI is that I can also go back and kind of have a version associated with this. You see here, I've attached a version to this thing, and then I can publish this version so that you can have various versions of your trained models. Okay. And then it says these things. It says like upload more documents to get better accuracy. And also it gives you a query, basically how to extract the value from those documents. The document, and then you can give a new document to the query. It will extract the data from the document and show you those answers. Okay, you'll see that in a second, or multiple documents as well. Okay, let's go here and see how this works. So I'm going to do document. I'm going to say extract the data from where. Sorry, yeah, this is where with invoice info, which is my document model name. Select LLM document plus blah 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 the invoice model and say predict. Give it a invoice 9987.pdf, the PDF which we saw earlier as invoice details. And then I'm going to do a select star from it. Okay, that's what I'm doing. Going to do. Maybe it'll take a few seconds for me. Dunit, if we have any other questions, we can discuss because it'll take a few seconds for this to get the answers. So while that, like we can talk about more. Yeah. I think I'm kind of technically at the end of my session. So you see this here, and it gives you this customer address, name, and everything. So if you remember, on the document we attached a variable, right? That variable will come in the JSON. I'll show you the next thing where I actually plotted this for more clearer understanding. So the customer name, address, due date, international roaming fee, these are the variable names, or in database world, we can call them as column names that I basically defined when I extracted the values using a natural language question. If you remember, let me go back to the document AI. Okay, that was I. Okay, let me go here. Again, I go here, go to the document. I'm just opening it up just for reference sake now. See all documents. If you remember, I defined these variables here, right? Due date, invoice name, and other thing, which maps to your natural language question. That is exactly what I actually use here as well, right? When the response comes back to me, response comes here. Also, everything gives you a score as well attached to it, right? There's always a score attached to the accuracy, right? Now, I'm again using Streamlit to kind of do this nice plotting that you require here, right? Kind of take this kind of a data, the representation, a visualization of data, in other words, data world that I'm doing here. So within Notebook, I can achieve all these things. So gone are the days where I just need SQL worksheets to do everything. I can nicely document because I can do markdown, document the thing, execute against thing. Again, these executes against a workspace, against a context, against a database. So which means that You can have definitions, cleanly defined documents for running your SQL program. And I can also run all these cells right away, completely one by one sequentially, or I can also do a scheduling of running of these notebooks. That could also be done. So which means that I can schedule these notebooks to run at a specific interval or something like that, which acts as a documentation for it to run this stuff. All right. I think that's pretty much I have. Probably we don't have time to cover on LLMs, but I just want to leave some time on this screen, which talks about the governance commitment that Snowflake has on these Gen AI, and open it up to the need for any questions that you might have.
Well, thank you, Kamesh. It's been very interesting session. So I have a few questions. I'll start with one related to Streamlit, which we covered last. So as I understand, I can build different interactive data products using Streamlit, right? And then I can also host it on the same platform
Right.
securely, and I can share that application with a few with different users from the across the world. Is that right?
I don't call it across the world, obviously, but the shortest term I can say is across your organization first. Okay,
Right.
because it is kind of like what I could call like protected against your Snowflake authentication.
I see.
But if you want to share it across the world, obviously you have to bring that user using what we call as a reader account and give him an access to kind of access the application. So
Okay. Right.
this is because for the security reasons. So we don't want the applications to be public, so that once the moment it's public, right, people can access the data inside Snowflake, right? Because on our account, whatever account you have, right? So it is protected against the thing. Obviously, there are techniques
Mhm.
which you can do to kind of expose these applications to public world. There are techniques, but by default, whenever we create the applications can be accessed is behind the firewall or Snowflake security authentication mechanism for you to access it.
Right. That makes sense, and that makes it more secure against vulnerable attacks and other stuff.
Right.
Uh, the other question is, I would like to go back to the support ticket and sentiment analysis use case you mentioned. That was brilliant, by the way. Uh,
Right.
in there, your data source was a structured table, if I'm not
Right.
mistaken. What
Right.
if? So let's think of a scenario like this. I have a bunch of JSON files with different
Right.
comments, right? It's
Right.
basically semi-structured or uh, maybe unstructured data. So how can
Mhm.
I bring that data and store that into Snowflake and start redo the same use case? Would you?
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you imagine scenario, I'll just slightly rephrase a question, Dunit.
Sure.
Like let's say imagine that I get a stream of data from Kafka, for example.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
raw
Exactly.
JSON data. So now what we have in Snowflake is that there's a very specific column type called as variant. Okay, which
Mm.
basically stores a whole JSON blob inside a particular column. Okay, and then there's a concept called as dynamic tables. So which basically what it basically does, it kind of I can extract the data using JSON queries on the structured data, unstructured data, right? Like in
Right.
JSON, I can structured data, right?
Yes.
So on the JSON data, on the columns, I can do a query on the JSON data
I
and
see.
then extract the columns and put the columns into a Snowflake table. Then it becomes a proper table where I can run analytics on. Or I can also read the data. Obviously, Streamlit also gives you a provision to kind of read the JSON directly. But if you imagine for a second, right, that's not the best way, right? Because you want to get the data, store it somewhere, and then start using it. I'll just tell you, I'm just going to share you another link. Yeah, this is what the dynamic table is all about.
Mhm.
Uh, yeah, I'm going to share this documentation. You can read about this. And I have an example, if you remember, Dunit, like the gRPC application that I did earlier.
Yes. Yes. I
With
remember. Yeah.
I actually have that application run with for Snowflake dynamic tables as well. So which
Right.
basically extract data. Let me share that link of that application which we did earlier. Repositories, uh, gRPC. Yeah, this is the one. And let me see if I have that branch in this. There is a branch. Yeah, there's a Snowflake branch in this. So if you see this one, it was using Red Panda earlier, but you can flip
Right.
it for So this one has this dynamic table example just to explain where it creates a variant table column and then kind of extract the data, uses Kafka connector to to connect to Snowflake, use Snowflake pipes is a very, very, very high performing thing that we do. And we also have a bunch of connectors. And if you also noticed, recently we acquired Data Wallow also. So which means that we have those kind of connectors, large ecosystem of connectors coming into thing to enable
Right.
you to do a better ETL and data pipelines.
Right. That's, I think that explained it a lot. So basically, um, yeah, dynamic tables not only gives me the access to different semi-structured and unstructured data, as well as it allows me to process this data in real time. So
Yeah.
that's another advantage. So thank
And
you.
another, yeah,
Yes.
another one thing before we sign off, like I want to talk to you since about these things. We also got this thing recently launched. Uh,
Oh, nice.
I just shared this with again. Now there are also quick starts about this Unistore, where we brought in both OLTP and OLAP can be on one single store,
Right.
one single table, and then it Snowflake takes care of how to query them, either row based or a column based. You decide, right? I think a lot of customers have started to use it. Maybe like that will be something which will be very interesting to explore as well. People are interested to say, okay, I want to have one store. I don't want two stores to store the data. Then you can also use this one as well.
Thank you for the heads up, Kamesh. And I'll open the room for any question from the audience. So you can simply unmute yourself and ask any question from Kamesh, or you can just type in the question to the chat. Let's take about a minute or so.
Is there any question? So as I said earlier, I'm just going to put the data wallow link also here. Data wallow link is right now Snowflake. We are working on getting these things done. Again, it's based on open source project called as Apache Nifi.
Nice.
Again,
Yeah, yeah.
and also like people also might be knowing about Apache Polaris. If they want
Yes.
to know about, again, that's one thing which is contributed by Snowflake to open source community, and we are working with the Iceberg, PMC, and other people.
Right.
And I think I'll also share you. I think on Monday, Dunit, I think I'll share you the Iceberg Summit thing, which is
Yes.
happening, where
Yes.
we are writing papers for people to submit papers that we can do. So, and also like I'm working on maybe we can have a dedicated session on Apache Polaris plus Iceberg plus any other scenarios, right? Like what you want to talk about.
Absolutely,
So
Kamesh. Yeah.
yeah, I want to calling out that Snowflake people like obviously there are some lots of proprietary stuff or old platform, obviously like anything, but we are also having lots of contribution being done to open source and a lot of projects where we are also getting a part of it to kind of improve the whole data ecosystem on open source side of things.
That's fascinating. And I don't see any questions posted right now, but we got the recording. So what I'm going to do is, so I'll talk with Kamesh and we'll gather all the resources that Kamesh has shared with us today, and we'll compile a list of resources and we'll send you out an email, probably mid next week. So you'll have the access to everything, including the quick start guides, the notebooks, and other additional links that Kamesh shared. Also, we'll discuss more on about conducting some hands-on training on especially crafted to beginners on Snowflake
Right.
user by joining hands with Kamesh. So we'll plan it out accordingly as well. And as the last thing, I just wanted to thank you, Kamesh Sampath from Snowflake, lead developer advocate from Snowflake, for taking your time. I know it's late in India, so thanks for taking your time for us to educate us on different offerings, especially related to the generative AI, related to Snowflake. Uh, People might have heard of Snowflake just as an cloud native data warehouse, but now today it's more than that. It's gone beyond that, and now offering more generative AI, allowing more developers to build more AI and machine learning applications to suit the future of the needs. So, Kamesh, thank you so much again. So, we are expecting repeat visits to this meetup in future. Hopefully, to talk about some icebergs related content and some Polaris catalog and those kind of things. I'll be in touch with you so we can plan out these sessions with
Sure.
nice.
Dunit.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. And thanks everyone for staying along. and batting with me for an hour or so. And happy to take questions, as Dunit was saying, like ping me on LinkedIn. If you have any questions, anything specific to discuss, on any topic that interests you, you can chat it to Dunit. We can plan for those specific sessions in upcoming meetups whenever. I don't want to do it too frequently, like just give some time and do other stuff. As I said earlier, drop in all your resource requirements, what all things that you might interested in regarding Snowflake to Donate. I'll try to collect those documents, share it with them so that it's shared with the community as well. And thank you so much for having me on your second meetup. And good luck with all you and have a great weekend.
Thank you, Kamesh, and thanks everyone for joining us. And it's quite late in Sri Lanka as well. And I recommend you to add Kamesh on LinkedIn. So because and also start following his content because that's really valuable. So you can learn something very informative things from Kamesh's content on LinkedIn. So I highly encourage you to network. So networking is one of the objectives of this community. So Kamesh would be a great person to connect and learn from. So thank you. And like I discussed, I'll send you an email probably on Wednesday with all the resources, and we'll point you to uh, required sections. We'll plan out our next meetup on February, probably around third week of the month. And if you like to speak, drop me a line. You you can connect me over the LinkedIn, and you can send me a message. Yeah, I think that's it. We can call it a day. Thank you, Kamesh, again, and
See you,
thank you,
everyone.
everyone.
Bye now.
Have a good night. Bye.
Welcome.